Hello Capsulers, welcome to this video. My name is Euphorius and today we're going to be talking about PvP. So PvP, combat, PvE, it's all kind of the same. We're going to be talking about primarily PvP, and we're going to go do some PvE combat and just kind of talk about things that you would be doing in a PvP situation. Might even get into a little PvP. There's plenty of hostiles around. I don't think there are any in local right now. No, we're safe. But generally, PvP, it's a lot of work to normally get PvP to happen. Like Arumba said, it was probably 12-24 hours of work to get the big fight in the mart and the subsequent rooms after that organized. Takes a lot of logistics and stuff, and it's a little bit of sitting around, but as you see yesterday, there's a lot of payoff for it. You definitely want to go back and watch the overview video and the fitting video just to kind of figure out what's going on first. You don't want to jump into this video without any knowledge of that beforehand. PvP, PvE combat, you're going to figure ships different for each one. And depending on what role you're going to assume. And for this video, we're going to be going out and fighting some rats and stuff. And I have the same fitting from the last video. We have 3 dual anode light particle streams with gamma S crystals. We have the 5 meganewton microwarp drive 1. We have the 2 coiled circuit thermal radiators, tracking enhancer, and the damage control. So first, let's talk a little bit about ships in EVE Online. If we come over to ISIS, we can see tons of different types of ships, right? We'll stay in Gallente because I'm a little bit more familiar with Gallente ships. So freighters, transport ships, industrial ships, shuttles, rookie ships should never partake in PvP. Maybe rookie ships, but generally you're going to be looking at frigates, destroyers, cruisers, battle cruisers, battleships, and the capital ships, which aren't that big of a concern for us right now. Frigates are basically fast ships. They're good at tackling. They're good at pointing, and basically what tackling and pointing is, you're using webifiers or specifically warp scramblers and warp disruptors to contain an enemy. And generally a frigate will jump into a system, they will point a target, so they will warp scramble them or warp disrupt them and let someone else come in that's tankier that can then take over the point and keep the target from warping off field. So it's a really critical role. Frigates can also, they can be kiting. So a lot of people use kiting fits for frigates where they'll stay far away from battle. They're really good at like electronic warfare and stuff because they're so fast, they're hard to target, that kind of thing. You see there are different types of frigates. We have Navy frigate. We have interceptors. These again, they're really good at electronic warfare. We've got assault frigates. These are a little bit better damage dealers. We have covert ops. Covert ops, these ships, they can fit covert ops cloaking devices, which means they can warp while cloaked. So these are good for ambushes, scouting, that kind of thing. And then we have the Keras, which is an electronic attack ship, which is really good at electronic warfare. Destroyers are flimsy like frigates, but they have more firepower. So generally destroyers, they can be brawlers or they can be kiters, but generally there's probably more kiting destroyers just because they're so weak. Their tank just doesn't really hold up to a lot of other ships. We have the interdictor, which can launch warp bubbles, and then we have the tier 3 destroyers, which all have different modes that they can partake in. You have a defense mode, propulsion mode, sharpshooter mode. Again, they just big damage dealers. Here we have cruisers. Cruisers are kind of like the meat. Cruiser to battleship's probably the meat of any big force. Cruisers, they're the first ship that can really fit a pretty good tank. They can do a lot of damage too. They can do electronic warfare. They're kind of the jack of all trade ships. They can do pretty much anything. They're very versatile, and it's very good to have them in the fleet. About up to this point is where new players in the corporation will be focused in the next week or two. Cruisers are going to be really important for damage and winning this kind of war deck that we're in. We have different types of cruisers again. We have recon cruisers. They're cloaky. They're good at being invisible. We have heavy assault cruisers, Ishtar and the Deimos. We have interdiction cruiser. They can again launch war bubbles. Logistics cruiser. Logi ships. They're good at repairing other ships. So if you have a Logi in your fleet, they can remote repair other ships. They're a good kind of glue that holds the fleet together. And then we have the strategic cruisers. Here's the Minmatar one, the Loki that we killed yesterday. Pretty good ships. Battle cruisers. Battle cruisers are kind of like the destroyers of the cruiser line. They, do more damage. They can fit a little bit more tank. They're not as versatile, but they can still fill a lot of roles, just like cruisers. Not a whole lot to say about them. You can get command ships. They give a lot of bonuses to the fleets. And battleships. Battleships are the biggest sub-capital ship. They can fit a huge tank. They can use drones, guns. They fit large turrets. But while they're big, they're cool. They have a harder time tracking frigates and stuff. So frigates can get up on these, and they can do a lot of ECM and annoy them. And it's hard for those battleships to take those frigates out. And again, we have a Black Ops battleship. It can cloak and stuff. It's good for blockade running, sneaking up on people, that kind of stuff. And then we have Dreadnought. There's 4 Dreadnoughts, one for each faction, and they're just big damage dealers. A fleet of Dreadnoughts can just take out any ships very quickly. We have carriers, just like aircraft carriers and modern fleets. They carry a lot of drones or fighters. I think they're limited just to fighters now. They used to be able to carry anything. Maybe it's just super carriers. Super carriers are limited to fighters. So there's a carrier and super carrier for each main race, and there's also the Serpentis. Which one is it? Sanchez? Yeah, we have the Revenant, which is a super carrier, and it's pretty unique, being not one of the main 4 factions. So, yeah. And then we have Titans. Everybody basically knows what Titans are. Biggest, most expensive ships in the game. The Ragnarok here is 18 kilometers long. Huge ships. They can fit Doomsday weapons, and the Doomsdays can pretty much one-shot a lot of capital ships, but they can't target lower capital ships. So, one of the most important things about PvP and combat in general, whether it's PvE or PvP, is knowing what ships you're going up against. If you're in a frigate, you don't want to be fighting a battleship one-on-one. You're gonna lose. So it's good to know what kind of ships you're fighting, what those ships are good at, and being able to counter those as they come up. Okay, so we're out here. You can see there's a gate behind me. We're in a security mission. We're going to jump in here and take out some rats. First, I kind of want to talk about my overview and things you want to consider when you're going into PvP combat or combat in general. Anytime you're in a sketchy situation, whether it be low sec or if you're in a war in high sec like we currently are, you want to have local open at all times. You see I have local here, and then I have corp chat down here, which I can switch between corp and intel chat. Local is really important because it can give you a lot of information. As you can see, there's a bunch of grays in here, and those are basically people that don't, like, they're not interesting to me. They're just other people in the game. If someone popped up red, that means they are a enemy, and I would also show up red on their local so they know I'm in system. So you know there's a dangerous confrontation there. If you're in low sec and you see people that have low security statuses or criminals that have recently engaged in combat, you know those people are in PvP situations and you can be attacked at any moment. So local is really, really important. You generally want to have local open to see probably 8 to 10 people. Currently we're in pretty high sec systems, so I can't really see everybody. So being in a war like this, you can't really get a good picture of who all's in chat, but generally when I jump into a system, I check, see what's going on, that kind of thing. Over on the right side, you see my overview over here. I like a nice big overview. Gives me a lot of information. You can see I have a main here. We have like a PvE, normal PvP. This I switch to if we're in a big fight. It just shows all of just the hostiles and any drones. This is for friendlies, and this is for warping out, because you want to have a warp out tab, because if you get in a situation you don't want to be in and need to be able to warp out quick. Sorry about the sirens, we're having storms here. If you get into a situation where you need to be able to warp out, you want to have many different options, so you can just like right click over here and warp out, and it doesn't really matter where you're going to. So you want to have a warp out for if you get into a bad situation or your ship gets destroyed. Once your capsule spawns, you want to be able to warp out, so you don't lose your capsule. Sorry about the sirens, apparently there's a thunderstorm warning, but I wanted to go ahead and finish that last slide before I ended. But yes, you want to make sure you have a good overview for PvP, combat, all that stuff where you can readily have things available that you need. The next thing I'm going to talk about is D-Scan. D-Scan is crucial when you're in generally low sec or null sec. With D-Scan, you can set the angle that you're scanning, so it scans in the direction you're looking in. So you can see I click scan. There's no ships on it, but you can see the moons in the custom office. You can set the angle, and if you hit C, it puts you in like an observation mode, and you can click on different things and it points to that, and then you can scan those areas. So if you put your angle down and you're only scanning in that direction, and you look at a Stargate and scan, you can see if there's anyone camping that gate. You can see if there's someone at a star at the moon. You can kind of like determine where they are within system. So D-Scan is really helpful when you're doing PvP. And it got messed up. Anyway, so D-Scan is important, local is important, overview is important. The next thing we're going to talk about is if you're in a PvP situation, you want to... this is important. If you're in low sec and you want to attack somebody, it's a criminal act, so you want to disable safety. And you can look at the different safeties here, and they give a description of what they do. But enable safety, this will prevent all actions that would give you suspect or criminal status. Yellow, partial safety, it prevents actions that would give criminal status while allowing those that give suspect status. And then this one allows all criminal actions. So if you're going to attack somebody, you want to make sure you have this on, because if you're set to safe, you won't be able to shoot anyone, you won't be able to lock onto them, and they're just going to, get free damage on you. So if you're going into a PvP situation, you want to make sure this is disabled. But otherwise, if you're in high sec, not in a combat scenario, you might want to leave that on because you don't want to accidentally attack somebody, have Concord come kill you, that kind of thing. The last thing I'm going to talk about is weapons. So you can group weapons. You can group, if you 2 weapons, and then you can clear group. So you can group multiple weapons. If you just want to group all your weapons, you can click this, and then you only have to click your weapons once to activate them. It's very helpful, and it it's good to spread them out if you want to, if you're in like fighting frigates or something, just frigate rats, and you don't want to spend too much ammo on one target and overkill them. But it's good because you can just one click, it'll reload and all that kind of stuff. So it's generally good to group your weapons unless you're worried about overkilling with missiles or something like that. Other than that, I think we're ready to activate this gate and jump into the instance here. So one thing to keep in mind when you're doing missions is that you are still in open space. You can be, people can't automatically warp to you, but you can be scanned down. So it's not like you're sitting on a Stargate, they can't warp to the Stargate and see you there, and they can't warp to this activation gate. But they can scan you down, so that's something to keep in mind when you're doing missions this week, and we're still in this hostile kind of situation. So you can see that we have some rats out here, these red triangles. The red triangles are all frigates. Looks like we have some destroyers or personnel transports. So yeah, let's pull up. So my fit, it's a kiting fit, so I want to kind of stay further away. I want to stay around 14 kilometers on the rats. And when you want to target something, you can either right click and click, there would be a lock target here if you're close enough, or alternatively you can click this button up here that's lock target, or you can just control click and see how the thing comes up, but I'm of course out of range. So you can just control click and grab your targets, and then you can assign guns and drones and whatever you need to do. So we're going to keep this drone at 10K. We're going to lock these. This is a little bit inefficient. I was not expecting to catch them that fast. I think this is a no, it's just a transport. Okay. So you can see we're doing some damage here. I'm going to keep it range 10K, pulling away. Now that we're getting shot, we'll turn our damage control on. Damage control increases our resistance, decreases the amount of damage we'll take, and this should be a pretty easy mission, all things considered. So you kind of want to watch your damage here. You can see shields depleting up here. Why? Okay, so we're gonna kind of fly away here, taking a lot of damage. I don't really have any tank on this. So we're gonna pull away here and kind of see if we can lead them off, and then I might warp behind them to these smaller frigates. Didn't expect there to be this many frigates here. So let's get back in here a little bit. And you can see here in the middle, this is your capacitor. Your capacitor recharges. And as your weapons and modules cycle, they take out part of your capacitor. Okay. So let's relock targets, start firing again. Now we should probably be far enough away to not really take too much damage here. Just make sure we keep the closest one around 15 kilometers. See, we're doing damage there. And right here in this part of the screen, this is where you can see different things that are happening. If there's any warp scrambling attempts, web attempts, any damage that's done to you or you do to someone else, that's all going to pop up right here. Let's make sure we're keeping these guys pretty far away. So let's direct our targeting to this closest guy. And you can see once you set someone to, once you set your ship to keep a certain distance, it'll automatically keep that distance. You don't have to manually control it. You can set to orbit, you can set to approach, you can do whatever you need to position your ship. You can just click off here in space and your ship will go that direction. If you double click, if I double click here, my ship will go that direction. And you want to be cognizant of where your positioning is. You don't want to be in the middle like I was earlier. Now I'm in a position where they have to chase me down and I can just kite and shoot them. So this is kind of how my fit is designed. I can pull them away, I can shoot at them from a distance, and I don't have to worry about them all ganging up on me and shooting at me at once. If I was using the brawler fit that we were using yesterday, you could see I took a lot of damage earlier to my shield. It would be hard for me to stay in this combat against this many hostiles because I'd have to be right in there. But with this kite fit, I can stay further away, I can do damage, and I don't have to worry about losing my ship or dying. So as you can see, we're taking them out here. You can see we have the lock targets up here, and I can switch between the lock targets by clicking on them. You can see I have my guns engaged to this one. So I could, if I had 3 guns still, instead of them grouped, I could click one gun to attack this, then I could click this one and click the next gun, and I could spread my damage out. It's almost indefinitely better to focus one target unless you can just one-shot targets with missiles or whatever it may be when you're ratting. You can also spread out your electronic warfare, so if you have this guy pointed but you need to web this guy or web a drone, you could do that. So switching targets is important. I need to make sure I'm keeping this guy a little bit closer. I'm not really hitting. And the good thing about beam weapons is you just have crystals. You don't have to reload. There's no ammunition. Missiles, projectiles, and hybrid turrets all take ammunition. So you have to be cognizant. You have to be cognizant of that as well, because you have to think about reload times and all of those things that come along with that. So as you can see, we're poking these rats down. Kite fits are generally, takes a little bit longer to kill things because you're doing less damage because you're further away, but it's a little bit safer, you have less to worry about, and you can just poke away at people from further away. But yeah, I think I'm going to end the video there. I have covered everything that you need to know about PvP and combat when you're first starting. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me a message in game, comment on the video, let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. Life safe.